All right, there we go. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends, Catherine and Karen and Dan and Sandy. And today we're going to continue our discussion of the book. What is the name of the book? Oh, Your Soul's Plan by Rober Schwartz. But before we get going with that, I just want to let you all know that if you're watching this as a recording, you can join this discussion as well. You will just need to find us over on Facebook. Just look for Mindset Mastery Collective or go to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and that'll take you right into our Facebook group where you can let us know that you'd like to participate. Okay, so with that, guys, go ahead and jump out, introduce yourselves, and then Catherine, you can take it from there.
I'll jump out first and say hello. My name is Dan Sisik. I'm in fabulous Las Vegas, where we are opening up a little bit, and it is getting hotter again. We actually hit 100 degrees once now, and we're heading back up into the 90s this week. So, yeah, it's starting to get hot here.
Good morning, Sandy Root in cloudy, rainy Miami Beach for the past couple of days, but humid and hot. We started opening up. I reopened my practice this past week, so yay! So things are slowly going back, but we'll see how it goes. Praying for things to stay calm.
And I'm Karen Lohoff, and since I can't see myself, it's hard for me to imagine that anybody else can see me, but I'm in Mesa, Arizona, and we're kind of like Dan. We're slipping back down into the 90s, which is nice. It's kind of hard to choke on that. But we've definitely been up there over 105, and so this is a relief.
Good morning. This is Catherine Clement in Shawnee, Oklahoma. That still does not roll off my tongue well.
Oh, shoot. Am I still unmuted? I guess I am. Sorry about that, guys. Go ahead and take it from there, Catherine. You're leading this wagon.
All right. Well, we're not sure. We started this book last week, and we're not sure how much of it you can hear. The recording is very staccato on my end. When I try to watch it, I can't really understand anything we said. So we may wind up repeating some things today, but we were just starting the book. We were just really discussing the concepts of the book and stuff. So, you didn't really miss anything. As you can all see, we're on a different platform. We're trying to find one that does a smooth recording for everyone. So hopefully this is the one. And if not, then we will continue and find another platform until we find one that really works well, gives a good quality recording. So we're glad that you joined us, and hopefully, I see Dan, you got your book in the mail, and hopefully, Sandy, you'll get yours soon. I know I kind of would like to have a hard copy of this book myself, but I have it on Audible, so that's what I've been listening to. And basically the concept of this book is it's the guy that wrote it was, I don't know if he was in marketing, he was in something. He wasn't very inspired by what he was doing. His life was kind of, some of it excited him, some of his work, but not really. And so he was really looking, he was unsettled in his soul. And I find that interesting because we're in this corona pause right now where a lot of people are having to reevaluate their life and what they're doing, and is there something else that they could be doing that would serve their soul better. So this guy, he started basically reaching out, asking the universe questions, and got a whole bunch of answers and wrote this book. And it's based on conversations with psychics and mediums. And I know not everybody believes in that, and that's okay. But he got the same information from different people, which sort of lends, I don't know, some sort of reliability on it, if two different people are telling you the exact same thing. But, as I mentioned last week, I've certainly had my doubts about certain people that claim to have certain gifts and whether it's just all in their imagination or not. But when two people's imagination matches up, that tends to add a little bit more believability to it, for me anyway. So we'll see as we go along. Basically, it's a belief that, we all are kind of like this soul group of people who pre-plan before we come in the lessons that we want to learn. And so rather than looking at circumstances in our life as something that's happened to us, somebody did something to us, somebody did this to me, the government's doing this to us, like there's a lot of that going around right now. As a matter of fact, I was on this far from a pure rampage this morning over a video that I got, and I watched it and then I did some fact checking, and it seemed to all be true until I did one final fact check, and then I saw that it really wasn't true, thank goodness, because I was about ready to blow a gasket, you guys. So I think a lot of people are coming face to face with some things right now, and we have to decide, and I have to remind myself constantly, okay, I find myself getting upset over something, but then I say, but if we plan this way, if indeed, before I came into this life, we sat around a little video conferencing table and we discussed what we were going to do, and this was in the plan, for me, that provides some comfort. That, I get more upset when I feel like I don't have control over things. And so with the belief that I pre-planned this, that puts me completely in control. Now, maybe I'm just a controlaholic. I don't know. But what about you guys? Does it give you any comfort? Let's just say, I'm not saying that you believe in this book or this concept, but let's just say if you did believe in this book and this concept, would it give you some comfort to know that we planned all this?
Yeah, I think it brings me comfort to know that, yeah, when I think about those things, yeah, when things feel like, what's going on, or, yeah, something bad happens, then looking at the bigger picture does soothe me. It reminds me when I first read like my first spiritual kind of book. That was probably, oh my God, like 20 years ago. And I was going through a really, really, really hard time. And when I read the book, you've read it, The Seat of the Soul. When I read it, it just brought me so much comfort for the turmoil I was going through in my life at the time. And it's just like, this all makes so much sense. And it really helped me feel better and to trust that whatever turmoil I was going through was for a reason. And maybe it was for me to pick up a spiritual book and open my eyes to where, I am now. Because if I never picked up that book, who knows? But that was like my first thing that was like, yes, this makes sense. And it resonated and it felt good. Like, oh yeah, okay, everything's okay. Even if this is my soul's journey. And yeah, so for me, it definitely brings comfort. Comfort.
I think it does for me as well. It's been interesting. I really had to kind of notice my thinking a lot more in the last couple of years, because I've been made aware that um, the only UTI that I can ever think of that I've had in my life really did a number on me, in particular with my short-term memory. And there are times that I think about things and I think, why didn't I think about this before? And of course, the actual truth is, I don't know that I didn't think about it before, but I've been a solid believer in what I call the pre-existence. And um, I've been watching a number of videos of people whose beliefs have changed. And one woman in particular said, um, there's no that there was no pre-existence because of the scripture in the New Testament that says, I formed thee in the womb. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to have to give up my belief in the pre-existence. And then I noticed that it didn't seem to be something that you can Google and find a lot about, as far as that name is concerned. And then I started to notice again how many people talk about the plans that we made before we came here. And it's one of those kind of common things that people say and don't really seem to notice, by the way, as I talk to you about this, is this something that you even believe in? Um, it's it's interesting how there are many things in our lives that we ourselves believe in, and we assume that anybody that we would talk to believes in those things as well. And oftentimes those people just nod their heads. Um, I remember talking on the phone with the best friend I'd made in third grade. And in fact, our first year at university, we spent in the same dorm room. And that was really the kind of the last time I really had much time with her, because she got married and then had 7 children. Um, but she told me one time, well, she told me that time on the phone, that she had a kind of a vision of this experience of planning her life and being told by maybe the soul group, you might describe it, as you're planning too much. It's going to be too hard for you. You need to understand that it needs to be, something that, I don't know that they use the word or term, doesn't break you, but um, that gives me comfort, because I can see myself as such a pleaser that I would be saying, yeah, give me a little bit of World War II in I think you get the point. So yes, I think it comforts me as well.
I am oddly enough going to be the one that kind of still has some issues and but I'm sure you guys probably kind of expected that knowing me. But I now one part I do kind of semi agree with you guys on is um because of where I believe and where I come from. I do believe that um I do agree that I am an eternal soul. I will continue on to whatever I in my glorified state after I pass from this. But and I do believe that God, infinite intelligence, the universe did form me in my present state. But I do. But if we're an eternal soul, then I believe that somehow, even though I may not have been formed or in the state I am now, I believe somewhere in the mind overall of infinite intelligence, God, the universe, however we look at it and call it. Um, I was there, and was in it. So that's the one part I do agree with on that part. I still have issues though with trying to, because of some of the things I've gone through in my life personally. I can't. I still have issues and problems with putting myself in the situations that I've been in and haven't endured, and some of the aspects, even aspects of my life that I'm going through now, that I really do not want to go through. I'm just being bluntly honest. I do not. It is not something I would want to go through. Is there opportunity for me to take from it and learn and grow and use it for future? Yes, I do agree with that. I'm still just wrapping around that, you know, that, but then going back again to the part of the, see, this is where my fight goes on with me, being an eternal soul, that knowing that as I move on and whatever's next in my next glorified state, who knows truly what that holds yet and what that will be like. I have my assumptions and my thoughts about it and what it will be like, but I honestly don't have anything concrete really myself that says it will be exactly like that either. So that's where, and that's why I'm trying to be open and look at this and be willing to go through this so I can learn, judge, evaluate, grow, and maybe open myself to other possibilities on things to help add on to what my beliefs are now and to, go from there. But I still have some issues with, you know, um, and so I welcome going through this book some more and seeing what he has to say.
I think that, Sandy, like you, I had picked up a book a number of years ago. And of course, it wasn't my first personal development book, but it was the first one that really got me thinking about taking this kind of like personal responsibility for everything that happens to me in my life. And, prior to that, I really felt like I was just getting pushed around by the universe, and whatever was happening, it was just, I didn't have any control over it. And when I read that book, and the book that I read was Zero Limits by Joe Vitale. And in that one, he talks a lot about just really looking at your life and realizing that you are where you are based on all these decisions that you made in the past. And so this concept of well, and to kind of, expand more on that, said, once I was able to kind of look at my life that way and realize that, oh, okay, I'm exactly where I chose to be based on all my previous decisions, then it gave me this kind of like empowered feeling of, okay, I'm not here by chance. I'm not, this isn't an accident. I'm here by choice. And now granted, I had to choose between, sometimes it felt like two unpleasant things, but I still made a choice. This one was a choice that would have led down this path, and I might have had a lot more pain that way. Or I choose this path that was, I still going to have some painful experience, but at least I've chosen to go this way, and that's why I'm here where I am. And but it was just that kind of realization that I'd made those choices and chosen between different possible outcomes that, of course, I had no idea what was going to happen, but still made those choices. But anyway, so this idea of this book, say, taking it kind of one step further, where not only have I made all the choices that have led me to where I am right now in my physical life, but I also chose this particular life to lead. And I think that's a really interesting concept. We can we can, I don't know, feel like we're in control of the situation just one little bit more. And I don't know, that since I've read that Zero Limits book, that in and of itself has given me a lot more comfort and has just made me feel like I'm a stronger individual in whatever situation that I'm facing. So I like the idea. I'm not sure about all the detail aspect of it yet, but we'll see how it goes. So
Okay. So I think for the majority of us, I think for all of us, actually, it does bring some comfort. I think, Dan, you're struggling with, why in the hell would I choose this? And I'm sure everybody else on the panel can relate to that. I know some of the things that I've been through, I would love to say, oh, hell no, I didn't choose that. But I, I, I think I did, And one of the things that it talks about is how, we do plan some things, but we don't necessarily plan everything. This is actually something that I struggle with a little bit because it talks about how, obviously it's a free will planet. So things happen because somebody else decides not to follow the plan and make a different choice. And of course, that's going to affect everything else. So it talked about how things that happen to you after you've had, let's say you're getting ready to do something and you have this very strong gut instinct saying, no, don't do it, but you go ahead and do it anyway. It's talking about, in one part, is talking about how that whatever happens to you after you have not listened to your intuition may not have been a pre-planned event in your life. On the other hand, it says that if that event was pre-planned and your intuition tries to warn you, but you don't pay attention to it so that that event happens, that all of that was actually pre-planned, if I didn't lose you in there somewhere. So on one hand, it's saying if it happens to you because you didn't listen to your intuition, that might not have been pre-planned. And on the other hand, it's saying, but your intuition you wouldn't listen to your intuition if it was something you were meant to experience because it was pre-planned. So is everybody's head spinning right now? Because I don't know what the hell I just said, but somehow that's what the book says. So I struggle with it a little bit because I'm like, okay, was it planned or was it not planned? I don't know. I think about the most significant events in my life, the events in my life that have had the biggest impact on me. And both of them were incidents where I had a very strong gut warning that I ignored. But the fact that those two events have impacted my life on such a global and huge level, I cannot believe that those would not have been pre-planned events. How about you guys? Do you have situations like that?
well, first I wanted to say on what you were just saying, Catherine, about it's this or it's that, but it's both. I mean, it all seems to be contradictory or whatever, but it's the same thing in my experience with Christianity, it's the same. It does the exact same thing. It says you have free will. God gives you free will, but yet He knows everything that's going to happen. And and if it happens, then it was supposed to happen, and that's just the way it is. But yet you have free will, and you get to choose, and you get to make a choice, and it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know if you remember those books. They used to have the books where you could, read the book, and at the end of the book, it gives you the choices, and then whatever choice you choose, you can flip to that page ahead in the book, and then you read the story from there. But if you want to, you can go back and choose again, and then read that same, read a different version of the. I don't know. It's funny to me that um, it's it's the same. How many times have we read something that is religious or spiritual, and we get down to the brass tacks of it, and it's saying the same thing as all of the other religious and spiritual things. So doesn't surprise me.
I was just gonna say, oddly enough, Catherine, from where I'm standing at, what you were saying actually made sense. I actually got it and understood, and which is weird considering. But I will say, in going back to the way you were saying that, because I've had those moments where I've had my intuition and I've thought, I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and then it's had an impact, and I might not remember exactly what it is. A couple things I think I kind of remember, but it does now by you saying that and bringing that out and me really looking at it. It does give me a little more calm to understand that yes, there are some things that are pre-planned or set, there, and that the intuitions or the things that I've done or decisions I made in those moments, because I can even go with the idea that it might be a loosely set plan where this is what the plan you go, but it also can allow for those times for the intuition or whatever to allow us the chance to have the choices to make to and because we don't necessarily remember setting up the plan, but while we're in it, when those intuitions come through, we can say, "Oh, I'll just go ahead and charge it in," and knowing full well that we'll probably get something that we're not expecting, and that could be far worse than whatever intuition's telling us, or we can rely on the intuition and then move away and go with another direction. And I also can agree with the fact that there are other people, and based on that similar idea, can make the plans that were laid out kind of before them, and they go through that same thought process and decide to do something totally different, which could be where some of the evil and the aspects of those type of things that come out in the world that we see play out. I can open myself up to that a little bit more and allow that to be, like you said, Samantha. God knows and sees and understands, or the universe or infinite, however you design it, um, understands those things. But given that in the process of actually playing out, we have that still last minute chance, so to speak, to make the change to do something else based on where we're at and the things going on around us at that point in time, and can give a total different outcome.
On the whole aspect of like the intuition um, part of it, I can look back on my life and remember a very, very specific incident that happened with me where I had a really strong um, intuitive knowing that if I kept going down this one path that I was going, it was going to be ugly, and yet I still kept going that way, and even knowing it, even it was a really strong knowing, like literally like someone standing in front of me going, "Hey, if you go down that path, you're going to get hit by a truck." And then I'm like, "Oh, I am? Okay. That's the way I'm going to go." I mean, that's what it felt like. And so this idea of pre-planning, it's in some ways I'm like, I want to say that I completely reject the idea, but then in other ways I'm like, okay, I could see myself putting myself into a life with the full intention of, okay, here I am with all my soul friends. We're all hanging out. We're all like, hey, let's make this plan. We're going to do this thing and la 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 la. And then I get down here and I'm the one that goes and sticks the stick in the, you know, in the round, you know, what am I with the spokes of the wheel. I'm the one that goes, yeah, see, I'm changing the plan on everybody. You know, I could see that. It's just you know, it's, so I kind of am like, you know, it, in reading this book, there's a lot of this uh, uh it seems so serious. It's like this serious thing. We're making this big plan, and you know, we're doing it because we want to learn all these lessons, and I feel like I'm the character that is just like, sure, that's what we're gonna do. But then when I'm like, no, I'm going down there because I just want to have fun, you know. So I'm like, let's plan it like a vacation, and it's something fun and exciting. And yeah, we're going to try out all this stuff, and we're going to experience some fun stuff. We're going to experience some stuff that's not so fun, and you know, I don't know. I feel like I'm the one that kind of rejects the conformity of you know, being specific on everything, and I just want to, I don't know. That's just kind of the thoughts that are popping up into my head right now.
It does make you think, doesn't it? What if, but what if, but what if, but what if? And, you know, when I look back on my life, especially, you know, like I have two incidents that really stand out to me. And I think, okay, what if I had listened to my intuition? How much different would my life be right now? And both of those incidences were so life changing. I can't even imagine my life without those incidents happening. Both incidents that a lot of people would consider just, you know, horrible, but to me, they've expanded me in such ways that I totally can see myself setting myself up for that shit. You know, I mean, my wiser self, because this self isn't so wise. So my wiser self, yeah, I can totally, you know, and I can totally see how I would not have learned the lessons in any other conceivable way at that particular time in my life, you know, except for the way it happened. Was it pre-planned? I don't know. I'd like to think so because for me, it reduces the suffering. Um, I think there's a lot of suffering that happens. There's a lot of suffering happening right now. And as an empath, I have to say it is quite difficult not to get pulled into it sometimes. I'm really having to take, you know, doing a lot of releasing and clearing and not separating, because I don't think we can ever separate ourselves from each other, because I think that we're just all connected that deeply. But it's like I was talking about earlier, you know, I watched this video this morning and I'm about ready to head to Washington. You know, I mean, I was hot. I was really hot. I had to really calm myself down and get to the facts of the matter as best as I could. Nobody ever truly knows, you know, but there's a lot of suffering going on in the world right now because of, we are, like you were talking about, Karen, you know, when you have this belief in something and you're talking to somebody and you just can't imagine that anybody doesn't believe that same thing that you believe. I have found myself on the completely opposite spectrum of belief around a lot of the things that are going on in the world right now with a lot of my friends. And I have to say it's been a little bit, you know, it's hurt my heart a little bit. Not that I don't, I mean, I want everybody to be able to have their own beliefs. But I thought I was better aligned with some of my friends than I find out that I actually am. Now, Doesn't mean I'm less of a friend with them or that I'm, putting any distance between us or anything like that. But it just kind of shocked me. I was like, what? But what that does for me is it really makes me question, okay, well, why am I believing what I'm believing about this situation right now? And what, I guess a lot of people would say, well, why are they believing that? But for me, because I'm so introspective, I say, well, why am I believing that? Because I don't know why they're believing that. I'm never going to figure out why they're believing what they're believing. I can only look at what I believe, right? So it really makes me dig in deeper and try to figure out, well, why do I believe what I'm believing right now, given these circumstances? So suffering drives people to do some pretty desperate things, and when I read Byron Katie's book, and I've mentioned that on lots of different webinars that we've done, but when I read that book, I knew long before I read that book the concepts that were in that book. But sometimes it needs to just smack you in the face a little bit, that you can really choose that old saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, or something like that. I probably misquoted that, but you get the gist of it. That is so fucking true, you guys. Like, we cannot escape pain, but we can choose how we deal with pain, and we can choose whether we allow ourselves to suffer from that pain. And I know it sounds completely ridiculous and a cop-out, because here on this planet we tend to think of things as either right or wrong. They're either right or they're wrong. There's either a truth or there's non-truth. But to me, and I don't know why it makes sense, and maybe because it's something I pre-planned a long time ago, I don't know. But to me, if I can relieve suffering, and I have been in the depths of like the most serious suffering where I was just ready to end everything in this lifetime and move on to the next. And I don't have any kind of filters that would prevent me from doing that, other than the pain that I know that it would cause my friends and loved ones. That was the stopping point. But to discover that I can completely eliminate that suffering, go from 1 second of being ready to take my life to the next second of everything is okay. I can alleviate that suffering by changing my thought that's in my mind. That's all it takes, is changing my fucking mind about something, guys. Like, it's mind-blowing to me how much our mind controls our emotions, and how much our emotions control our body and our health and our well-being and our ability to even walk through this world. Like, it's all here in the mind. And it just blows mine when I read that book, and I was like, and she had the same experience. Here she was sleeping on the floor and roaches crawling over her and just in the depths of despair. And she realized that she could just change her mind about things and it was all going to be okay. And just like this morning, I was so furious. Like, I think I had everybody in the whole world's rage going through me in that second. And then I found this other piece of information, and all of that rage was gone instantly, because I realized what had caused that rage to begin with was a lie. Somebody else come out and talk.
I was going to jump out again unless somebody else wants to jump in real quick, because I know Sandy's on, and I'm sure she might have some thoughts, but I was going to say, I know that the one of the main incidences and things that happened in my life, I'm still not sure I pre-planned it, but um, somehow, but I know that I really believe that, and I'm kind of like you, Catherine. I really believe that had I not walked through it and lived through it, um, I don't know if I can think and picture who I might have become, or what I might have had I stayed in that environment. How, as I got older, how it might have affected me, or how it might have changed me, and I believe it probably would have. Um, but by the circumstances and things, and some of it were not things that being the age I was, I had control into make them happen. But the people around me that did, I don't think had I ultimately been into where I'm at now, it would not have made my heart the way it is, and the compassion, the love, and the feeling I have for other people just in general. Because I don't want anybody to ever feel like I ever felt, and I don't want anybody to ever feel like they don't matter, or that they're not worth it, or that they're not valuable, and that even if, for instance, within your own family or your own you know sphere, you don't feel that important or that valued or that loved, that we all deserve to have somebody here and on our side and in our corner, no matter what, whether you're family or not. And that's something that's come out of my experience and grown me into the type of heart I have and how I am with people. And I'm not saying I just run up to everybody and like that, and just, but when I get around people and the impact is there, and in the day to day, that's what comes out of me. And I think some people have a hard time understanding that about me, and accepting it. But at the same point, it's not something I want to change, and it's not something I'm going to change because of that feeling and that sense of not really being valued or loved or wanted by the two people I needed to be loved and wanted by the most. So, it was other family members that kind of filled in that gap. So in that, I know that, part of that, do I wish I had not ever walked through it? Yes. But kind of look back and be grateful for having gone through the experience to bring out the heart that I have now. Yes. And I think that's something akin to what all this, going in through this book can help open your eyes to get into that 2020 that 2020 sight of where they always say 2020 is, hindsight, because you get it after you've gone through that. So I think that's some of where I'm at, and allows me to open myself up to some of the things in this book more, to be able to get a different and additional perspective and an additional level or aspect or part of me to continue on the pattern I'm on and the growth I'm on of how I treat and look at people and interact with them.
Catherine, I really like how you brought up the aspect of like your thoughts and how that can change everything. And we talked about that a lot when we discussed the books. What was that book called? What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Homesteader, I think. And but I had that kind of same breakthrough moment when we read that book as what you're talking about when you went through the Byron Katie book. And just because I was struggling at one point during the time when we were studying that one with my daughter moving down to South Carolina to be with her boyfriend's family. and I was angry about that. I didn't want her to move away from us, and I kept having all of these horrible thoughts going on in my head about, you know, what that was going to mean to me in my life. And when I just changed the thoughts that I was thinking, it was like magic, completely like magic. All of a sudden, I wasn't upset anymore. It was just like boom, and everything was different. And so I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that us studying this particular book and kind of giving ourselves that option, that this other alternative to what how we ended up in our lives, that's huge. I mean, no matter what you believe, if you can just change the idea of how you ended up where you are, um, because like you said, Catherine, it's all in our head. And yeah, so I mean, we may as well write the story how we want it to be, and write our thoughts how we want to think, and because that's, you know, that's all really that there is. You know, because if we sit here and we think about all these unpleasant things, then we're going to be miserable, and if we think about positive and happy things, then we're going to be happy. So I just want to choose the happy things. So that's my thoughts.
Well, and as I'm sure, Miss Sandy, I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, because you're a healthcare professional, you're a acupuncturist. How do you explain to people how letting their emotions run rampant and their thoughts, their fear thoughts run rampant? Explain how that affects our body physically.
Yes. Well, yeah, definitely connected. The thoughts, feelings. What was that quote I saw last week about every cell in your body is listening to your mind. So anything we're feeling, it's all connected, because in Chinese medicine, we're working with different channels of energy. So there's, say, the liver meridian or the stomach meridian. And if you have a lot of rage or anger, it can affect the liver energy, and you end up having symptoms of liver energy disharmony. Or if you're a worried person, it can affect the damage the spleen. So that's always something when somebody comes in, say, with pain or some chronic condition or something, anything that's come up. Like, what was the emotion around that time when this started? And, you know, a lot of people don't even relate that, and they're like, oh, actually, come to think of it, you know, that this breakup happened, or I got divorced, or whatever, I lost my job, and then they piece it together like, wow, you know, a lot of it is emotional, or just a thought pattern that manifests in the symptom in the body. So definitely. And yeah, on all the other stuff, I wrote so many notes down, but I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, I liked when you said, Samantha, about the universe bouncing us around. I sort of used to be like that, like, you know, just go with the flow, and like bang, bang, boom, it bounced against the wall. Okay, what's next? But never really looking at like, why is something happening, or what can I change in the way I'm taking things in that's better for me, than rather just like getting thrown around like a roller coaster ride. And so really the control that we can take is, like we've been saying, is how we react to situations, and react to the pain and the suffering. And I think, you know, speaking of our soul's journey, I think we're on a big collective soul journey right now with all this suffering and pain. It's giving people a chance to really look at deep, like what emotions do I have? What is bringing this suffering? What is the pain that's happening in the world? And because we're all part of it, we created it, and we have to go through it together. And so I think it's a great awakening happening too during this. You know, some people may just say, okay, I'm checking out, and move on to the next life, which unfortunately is happening a lot here on Miami Beach. Because, yeah, the whole situation. But what was my point? But like the same thing, Catherine, is like the feeling the collective suffering as an empath too, like just when this whole pandemic started to be like, okay, it's coming to the US, it was like I could just feel like everybody's like fear, and I couldn't sleep for a few nights, and I'm like, then I realized, you know what, this isn't mine. Let it, you know, if I'm going to take it on, let me try and transmute it at least to the light or love. And I think that's something that we can all do for each other. It seems like maybe, oh, that's not going to do anything for anything. But I believe if we really, whatever emotion we're feeling, whether it's ours or the collective, to work with it and move it, because we can move the emotions through our body without them getting stuck and creating issues in the body. If you're aware of just feeling it and moving it through and bringing it to a good place, like, okay, there's all this fear and all this suffering, let me, you know, work on raising that up and bringing love and cultivating that rather than falling into, because it's easy to like, oh, this must all this, and easy to you know, get sucked into it, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I suffering so much? Why do I feel like this? And then realize it's not even yours, but you can use it to like, okay, I'm going to bring it all to the light, and then, you know, it can affect somebody else without us even knowing, because we're all energy and we're all one. So just working on our own energy can help lift the collective energy. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure at which, I don't know where I am in the book, to be honest with you, because I've been listening to the audiobook while I've been working. And so I may be way ahead on in this section. But he was talking about how in the planning, or in, is it the planning, or I don't know, some aspect of it where he's talking about when one person can, you know, make a change, like what you were talking about, Sandy, and just having that positive aspect or thought process, or putting more positive energy on it or whatever, it makes it easier for other people. And you know, and I have experienced that a lot in my life, just like when I was talking before about being so upset about my daughter and her moving to South Carolina and all of that. And when I went and at the same time, of course, my husband, that he's feeling the same thing, and he's going through a lot. And you know, when I changed my aspect or my attitude or my feelings or thoughts or whatever towards it, it helped to change. It was easier for him to change his thought process on it as well. And then going back even further in my life, when I had picked up that book, the Zero Limits book, and I had changed my whole entire thought process about everything and where I was in my life, because at that point I was really struggling in my relationship with my husband and in our life in general. And when I changed my thoughts about that and changed how, you know, I just kind of took on that, okay, I chose to be here. And that changed everything. And it wasn't, you know, because I don't know about you guys, you know, if you've ever been in a relationship where you're struggling in your relationship and you're just having a really hard time with that other person, and you wish they would just change or whatever. And but it doesn't work that way. It's you change what you're doing inside yourself. You change your own thoughts about the situation, and by virtue of doing that, everything changes. And you know, I didn't expect my husband to change in any way, shape, or form. I just changed within myself. I changed my own thought processes and the ways that I was dealing with our relationship, and that changed. He just changed, just magic. It was just magic. So I don't know. I think that's a big part of it, is just the fact that you can make a change in yourself. You can change the way that you do things in your mind, and that by virtue of doing so changes everything outside of ourselves. I mean, well, maybe not everything, but in our little worlds of everything, it seems like.
All right, we're at the top of the hour, so if anybody has any final comments they want to make, hopefully this recording has come out better. We won't know until we're done, and we try to listen to it. So hopefully it's good, and if not, then we'll try a different platform next week. But I like this platform. I hope it works good for us. Anybody have any last minute thoughts?
I just thought of Wayne Dyer's quote, change the way you look at things and the way, and what? How does it go? Change the way you look at things and the things
And the
change.
things you look at change. Yeah.
Well, and for anybody who, this is one of those things I can't imagine anybody hasn't heard of it, but I know that's a ridiculous thought right there. If you haven't been exposed to Dr. Emoto's water experiments, you need to go look at that, because they did these experiments where sometimes they had people praying over water, or sometimes they just put a label on the water with a word like love or hate. And then they froze the water and they took pictures of the water, and the actual makeup, the crystal makeup of the water changed depending on the thought or the vibration that was applied towards the water. We're over 70% water in our bodies. When Sandy says every cell in your body is listening to every thought you have, that's truth, guys. That is truth right there. And I got full body tingles right now, reinforcing that for me. Like it, and I'm not saying, because we've talked about before how sometimes thoughts just come into your head. You don't really know where they come from, just suddenly they're there. So it's not that every thought that arises is going to make that change. It's how much you buy into that thought. Okay, so you can have thoughts come in there all day long. It's how much do you buy into that thought? How much do you attach yourself to that thought? How much do you let that thought keep going around and around in your head? And I know sometimes you cannot stop those thoughts that are going around. Sometimes they just do it on their own, but the only thing I can do when that's happening to me, and I call that spinning, when I'm spinning and in my mind, my thoughts just seem to be out of control. There's some really simple, I mean, super simple breathing exercises that you can do that will literally change your nervous system from being in a super active state. It literally changes you from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And that's a whole nother discussion. But there are things you can do to help your mind when it gets out of control like that. So maybe we'll talk about some more of that next week. I love you guys, and I hope that this recording came out good, and I'll give it back to you, Samantha, just to close us up for the week.
Alrighty then. Yeah, hopefully this turns out really well, and I've been real happy with it so far. Except for this little bar that keeps popping up on the bottom and blocking the captions that I'm seeing. Sandy says, another favorite quote, don't believe everything you think. I think that's what you said. It disappeared there. Yeah, don't believe everything you think. Absolutely. And yeah, on that same note, Catherine, where you were talking about, when your mind gets spinning. And yeah, I've experienced that a lot. And and when that happens with me, I have to stop myself and just say, what would I rather think? Because do I want to keep thinking this, or do I want to think something else? And if I can realize that's what's going on, that's a key right there. Is just realizing that it's happening. Because sometimes you're so caught up in it, you don't even realize it's happening. You're just on that emotional roller coaster. But if you can realize it's happening, and you can say to yourself, what would I rather think about this? And then choose something different, write it down, just write it down. That's what I had to do with that situation with my daughter. Is I had to realize that I was thinking all these thoughts, and then I just wrote out whole new thoughts. It didn't matter whether I believed the thoughts or not, just the action of writing those thoughts out. And then each time the negative thoughts would pop up, I'd look at the new thoughts and be like, no, this is what I want to think. And I just start thinking these things instead. And I kind of had to, it was like a force feeding of thoughts, I don't know. But Anyway, guys, it's been a great chat, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. And for those of you who are watching, there'll be some links below this video where you can find us on our Facebook group. You can get there by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com. Ask to join the group. Watch for the links to be posted. We've got an event in there that tells you, all the details of this particular Saturday Morning Mastermind, and you can just meet up with us here. You can just jump on here. Though for this platform, we have a link and we have call-in options, so that's kind of cool. Yeah. All right, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we will see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.